Well, this winter, as you're perusing your seed catalogs, looking for all those plants that you're going to put out in your garden next spring, it's hard to think that seed starting time isn't really that far away. Now, if you're putting cole crops out, and you can plant those out before our frost-free date, you might be starting seeds indoors as early as the 1st of February. Now, the best place to do that would be in a greenhouse, but all of us don't have access to a greenhouse or even access to a nice sunny window that has bright filtered light. Now, there is a way to get around this, and that is to add some supplemental light to your seed starting area. And today I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Now, as you're talking about starting seeds and light in relation to plants, there are basically 3 characteristics of light that come into play. Now, the first characteristic of light that comes into play is its intensity. That's how bright the light is. Now, this is very good to know because when we add supplemental light, the intensity of our light decreases at an inverse square of the distance that we have it away from our source. So basically, when we're moving that light away from our plants, it's decreasing at a much faster rate than what we would think with the distance. Now, with our seeds, we'll want to position our lights about 6 to 8 inches above those seedlings. And as they grow, we'll want to move them. And we'll talk about how to do that a little bit later. Now, the second quality of light is also the duration, or how long the plants are lit. Now, duration of light is pretty straightforward. Most of our plants, in general, about 12 hours would be good enough for. Indoors, what we can do to make up if we have a lower intensity of light is to light them a little bit longer. And so if we have our plants lit from anywhere to 14 to 16 hours a day, that is a good rule of thumb for lighting our seedlings. Now, if you want to do that kind of automatically, what you can do is get the handy dandy light timers. You know, those ones that you plug in when you go on vacation and you want people to think you're still there? This is exactly what you could use and set it so that it comes on and goes off at the same time every day during the day so that we've still got that darkness at night for our plants, because that's very important. And you can set it anywhere from, again, 14 to 16 hours, and that's usually good for most plants. Well, the third characteristic of light that I wanted to talk about is its quality or color. Remember back in biology when you learned Roy G. Biv? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. These are basically the wavelengths or colors of light in the visible spectrum. Now, the reason this is important is that plants only use the light that's in the blue to blue-green part of the spectrum and also red and far red part of the spectrum. So if our light bulbs aren't emitting the right colors of light, then our plants aren't going to grow very well. And I'm going to go over what each light bulb does for us today. And to start with, we're basically going to start with our light bulb. This is what most of us have in our homes. This is an incandescent light. Now, it emits light that is very heavy in the red and far red part of the spectrum, and it doesn't emit much of the blue to blue-green light for our plants. Now, what happens when we have a light that emits the red and far red colors of light is that our plants actually will grow very tall and spindly. They won't kind of beef up and get nice good stems on them. So this isn't a very good light bulb to have for our seedlings because we will have very tall and spindly seedlings that are likely to flop over. The other thing that's bad about an incandescent light is that it puts off an enormous amount of heat. And if you have this positioned 6 to 8 inches above your seedlings, you're basically going to fry them before they ever get a chance to grow. Now, a spot grow bulb is something that has been invented to kind of take care of that blue to blue-green problem that we have with our light. The only problem with this is it still emits a lot of heat, so we can't get it close enough to our plants to really do them a very good job. So if you're going to grow your seedlings, probably an incandescent bulb is not going to be the way to go. So what do we have left? Well, the great thing to grow plants with is a fluorescent bulb. And here I have just a basic fluorescent fixture with 2 cool white bulbs in there. Now, the cool white fluorescent bulbs actually emit light that they do have in the blue and blue-green spectrum. And that's very good for our plants because what's going to happen is they're going to get nice dark green leaves and they're going to be very sturdy. But they don't have the colors in that red and far red spectrum, so they're not going to want to elongate very much. And what we really need for good plant growth are both of those colors of light. So what you can do with your standard fluorescent bulb is get one cool white bulb and then get one warm white bulb and put them in the same fixture. Now what happens with our warm white fluorescent bulb is that it actually does have some of the colors in that red to far red spectrum, and that can help with plant growth. Now you can do this one better if you go with a grow light that is actually specifically made to emit light in that blue to blue-green and also red and far red spectrum for your plants. And these are those bulbs that you see emitting that night. It's kind of a violet glow. These are very good for growing your seedlings. They're not great for illuminating your office, but they do a very good job of illuminating seedlings. Now, while we're getting a light, what we need to do basically is just have a standard light fixture, fluorescent light fixture. This isn't a special grow light fixture or anything like that. And you can rig it on a chain and have it so that as the plants grow, you can actually move this up, because as your plants start to grow, you'll want to move that light, again, 6 to 8 inches from the top of the plant. So they'll be inside long enough that you will need to move it. So make sure it's an adjustable light so that you can give them the optimum light that they need. The other thing to think about is that fluorescent bulbs usually come in 2-foot lengths. They start about 2 foot. You can also get 4-foot or 6-foot lengths. Now, the reason this is important is that about the last 3 inches of the bulb emit a less intense light. So you're going to want to position your plants in about 3 inches. So if you start with only a 2-foot bulb, you're not going to have enough space to get your seedlings started unless you're just starting a very small bit. So if you start with a 4-foot length, you'll have some good area to get those seedlings started. The other thing that you need to think about is that these bulbs will get dusty. So if you just dust them off about once a month, that will help with the light intensity coming from them. And the other thing with light intensity is that it decreases with age. So you'll want to get new bulbs every year with regular fluorescent bulbs. And some of them you can replace them every other year, but you do need to replace them because they will decrease in intensity and you won't know it, but your plants won't be getting the light that they need. Now, these are just a few of the things to think about if you're going to start seeds indoors and you need some supplemental lighting. So now you can get started and get those plants out in your garden early.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.